What made your sweet grandpa snap in front of the whole family? My grandpa Bill was the kindest man you'd ever meet. 78 years old, always had butterscotch candies in his pocket for the kids, never raised his voice at anyone in his entire life. Every Sunday, our whole family would gather at his house for dinner. My mom, my Aunt Lisa, all the cousins, and unfortunately, my Uncle Derek. Derek married into our family 5 years ago and was honestly the worst. He'd show up late, complain about Grandpa's cooking, put his feet on the coffee table, and constantly make these little digs. Bill, your TV's ancient. When you gonna join the 21st century? Or, this meatloaf's a little dry, don't you think? Grandpa would just smile and change the subject. We all saw it happening, but nobody wanted to cause drama. Derek was Aunt Lisa's husband, and she seemed happy, so we just dealt with it. But Derek kept getting worse. He'd eat first, take the biggest portions, then complain there wasn't enough food. He'd use Grandpa's bathroom and leave towels on the floor. Once, he even answered Grandpa's phone and hung up on someone without taking a message. Last month, Derek started bringing his laptop to dinner. He'd sit at Grandpa's dining room table, typing loudly during conversations, taking work calls in the middle of grace. Grandpa would just set an extra placemat around the laptop. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. We're all sitting down for Sunday dinner when Derek walks in talking on his phone. Some work call that was apparently more important than family time. "Hold on," Derek says into the phone. Then he looks at all of us and goes, "Can you guys keep it down? I'm trying to close a deal here." We're sitting in silence while this guy paces around Grandpa's living room talking about quarterly projections. 15 minutes pass. Our food's getting cold. Finally, Derek hangs up and sits down like nothing happened. Grandpa starts to say grace and Derek interrupts. "Actually, Bill, I need to hop back on another call in 10 minutes. Can we speed this up?" I watched Grandpa's face. For just a second, something flickered in his eyes, but he just nodded and shortened the prayer. Derek scarfed down his food in 5 minutes, then got back on his phone in the living room. We could hear him laughing loudly, using bad language, completely disrupting dinner. My little cousin Emma, who's only 6, asked Grandpa why Uncle Derek was being so loud. Grandpa just said, "Some people forget their manners sometimes, sweetheart." That's when Derek yelled from the living room, "Bill, your Wi-Fi's garbage! How am I supposed to work with this ancient internet?" My mom shot a look at Aunt Lisa, but Lisa just stared at her plate. We'd all reached our limit with this guy, but nobody wanted to be the one to say something. Then Derek came back to the table and made the biggest mistake of his life. He looked at Grandpa's old wedding photo on the wall, the one of him and Grandma Rose, who passed away 2 years ago. "You know, Bill," Derek said, cutting into a second helping of pot roast, "maybe it's time to update this place. All these old photos and doilies everywhere, it's kinda depressing. Lisa could help you modernize, make it less like a museum." The whole table went dead silent. Grandpa set down his fork very slowly. When he looked up at Derek, his eyes had gone completely cold. "Excuse me? I'm just saying," Derek continued, somehow not reading the room. "Maybe pack away some of this old stuff. Move on, you know? Rose has been gone for years." What happened next was the most terrifying and beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. Grandpa Bill stood up from his chair, all 5'6" of him. He walked around the table until he was standing right next to Derek. Then, in a voice I'd never heard from him before, he said, "Get out." Derek laughed nervously. "Come on, Bill, I didn't mean, get out of my house." The whole room shook. Derek actually flinched. "Don't you ever disrespect my wife's memory in the home we built together? Don't you ever tell me how to grieve the woman I loved for 53 years. Grandpa's voice was getting louder with each word. "You sit at my table, eat my food, ignore my family, and then have the nerve to insult my Rose? Get out. Now." Derek tried to stammer an apology, but Grandpa wasn't done. "I've watched you disrespect this family for years. I kept quiet because I didn't want to hurt Lisa. But nobody, and I mean nobody, talks about my wife that way." Derek grabbed his stuff and practically ran to his car. Aunt Lisa followed him outside, and we could hear them arguing in the driveway. Grandpa sat back down, straightened his napkin, and said in his normal gentle voice, "Now who wants seconds on the green bean casserole?" My 6-year-old cousin Emma started clapping, and pretty soon we all were. It was the best Sunday dinner we'd had in years. Derek never came back to family dinners. Aunt Lisa still comes, and she's actually way more relaxed without him there. Turns out she was just as tired of his behavior as the rest of us. Grandpa Bill went back to being his sweet, quiet self. But now we all knew there was a lion underneath that gentle smile, and it only came out when someone threatened his family.